Hi there guys, and welcome to another EDH Geeks video. And in this video we're having a bit of a discussion about one of the slightly more interesting or controversial or debated things that are in the game of Magic the Gathering when you're playing Commander, and that is the idea that combat damage is underrated. So we've got to look at why combat damage is underrated as a strategy as far as winning games, even though that I sort of made a video somewhat recently to say, winning isn't everything, but again, you want to feel like you're achieving something, certainly, and again, of course, everyone does pack removal in their decks for, quote unquote aggro strategies. That shows you that this strategy can be good, because if people weren't putting in removal for a specific strategy, then then that strategy wouldn't be viable at all. So there's got to be something viable towards combat damage. I mean, look at Craterhoof Behemoth for one thing. Craterhoof Behemoth, how does it win? It wins because of combat damage. How does Infect win the game? It wins the game because of combat damage. How does Voltron win? It wins by combat damage. How does a tokens deck win? It wins by combat damage, and a lot of the lower tier, what people often call lower tier decks, and less competitive decks, or less, high functioning decks, often rely on combat damage to win games and close out games. Now, combat damage isn't everything. I'm going to admit that it sometimes falls behind and is sometimes not a way to win. It's not feasibly possible to win with combat damage, but it's not always as dead as what people would have you believe that it is. And again, even those people who say, well, it's not competitive in higher metas, well, just look at, what's her name, Yuriko. That mostly sort of wins through combat damage, but the 3-mana commander from the red one with 5 colors, Nagila, there we go, couldn't think of the name. She wins through combat damage. Yes, it's an infinite combo to do the combat damage, but again, that's still combat damage winning the game, essentially. Like, dual cast a mage plus the copy spell is infinite dual caster mages, so that then you can basically attack everyone for infinite damage. That is winning by combat damage. Yes, I know it's via a combo to do so, but again, I can say to you that there are ways that combat damage does win the game. And why again do people have pinpoint removal and board wipes then, if combat damage isn't really an issue? So what is the reason that combat damage is underrated, in my opinion? And I, again, will preface that by saying, again, it's not always the be-all and end-all. It is the way I like to play the game. And I know a lot of the people that I play with play to win with combat damage, or at least it's part of their strategy. It's not just they forget about the combat damage step. They go, oh yeah, I forgot to do my combat. Well, whatever, I'm not going to win this game anyway. But again, or, even just chipping in for that 1 damage here or there. And I've seen this happen with a lot of sacrifice-based decks, where they're just short of 1 or 2 damage. And what they've done is they've started sacking all their stuff in their pre-combat phase. Then they go to their combat phase and they go, oh, well, I could have actually attacked and actually killed everyone. And now I've got to wait another full turn to get back to me, so that then I can either attack or actually sack because I've run out of mana. You know, so that does happen. But again, so refocusing. Why is it underrated? It is underrated, I think, because a lot of more content creators are out there that say that it's not that good, essentially, and there's just a lot of higher end play, I guess, from people that sort of say, you can't win with combat damage in this meta, or combat damage isn't that relevant in this meta because everyone's packing board wipes. Well, obviously it's relevant because you're packing board wipes. You know, like, that doesn't make sense to me. If you don't run board wipes, then obviously combat damage isn't relevant because you just don't worry about it. You go, oh, well, I'm not putting board wipes in because, well, what's the point? I'm never going to get combat damaged out. If you're running board wipes, then obviously you're like, oh, well, what if somebody has combat damage on me? It's obvious why you run board wipes. Like, single target removal might be a bit different if you start saying, well, combat damage isn't relevant, but if they hit me with their Blightsteel Colossus, then it's relevant. But if they kill player A and player B with their Blightsteel Colossus, then they've taken out 2/3 of the table. Now, I know, again, as I said, sort of Blightsteel is a bad card for the most part, in my opinion, but in competitive metas, if you can cheat it out very quickly, it is very good. But again, still, I would say that people can kill it, but again, sometimes you happen to just kill the other two players that don't happen to have removal at the time or don't happen to have mana at the time, or what have you. But also, again, as I say, when it comes down to you versus that other player, then it's one-on-one, and then you're saying the combat damage isn't relevant. It isn't relevant to you because you've got the Swords to Plowshares or whatever it is, the removal in your hand to kill the creature that's going to kill you. But the combat damage has still been relevant because it has killed 2 other players in the game. So it has taken out 2/3 of the table just by that combat damage being relevant. And again, if you didn't have the removal, the combat damage would be relevant because it would kill you as well, and the game would have been won by combat damage. And again, if somebody has something like Blade of Selves or whatever, things that can make token copies of a creature, like Rite of Replication and whatnot, then you just get a bunch of the copies of the Blightsteel Colossus or whatever it is that will win the game by combat damage. So again, you keep saying that it's not relevant or what have you, but it is. So, because if you're not running removal, then of course it's not, it's obvious why it's not, irrelevant. But again, there is something to be said for why sometimes it is relevant and why decks do build themselves the way they do. It is because they know that it is relevant. And again, the main reason it's more relevant than what some people give it credit for being is that there are 4 players in the game. Okay? Now, if I, player number 1, let's say, attack my friend Steve, whatever, or Alan, or whoever it is, I attack them for 5 damage. Maybe that's not that relevant. But then, my opponent, Steve, attacks that same player for another 5 damage. Alright? So still maybe that's not that relevant. But maybe later in the game, as we're getting more and more creatures on the field, I'm able to attack Steve for 10 now. And for some reason, he doesn't attack me back. But whatever. Maybe he will. Who knows? Maybe he's planning to attack me, but he's too scared of a couple of the blockers I have, or what have you. Who knows? But he decides not to attack me, but he attacks the other player for another 10. So this is what I mean. There's more than one player that's going to do combat damage. So you're all kind of working together in a way, in a sense. And that's the thing about synergies and whatnot. If you're playing a mill deck, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be the only player playing a mill deck. So you're hard up against the wall to actually effectively mill everyone out, unless somebody's just like super greedy and hungry for cards, and I've certainly seen that sometimes. So maybe you can mill that player a little bit easier than what you could mill the other players. But again, as I say, mill is a little underrated as well. But again, it's still got its issues. And I will again say, combat damage does have its issues. But the thing is, it deserves to be thought of a little bit more highly than what it is thought about. Again, it's never irrelevant that somebody can win by combat damage. You should never assume that no one can win in that way, no matter what meta you're in, I think. And again, even if it doesn't legitimately actually win you the game, even those few points of damage, as I'm sort of saying with the sack decks, sometimes they sort of forget to go to combat and actually attack with their creatures, and they're just short of 1 or 2 damage. Sometimes just going, okay, can I attack? How much damage can I attack for? How much damage will get through? Okay, a couple of damage here and there. Okay, then I'm going to go through my process of sacrificing all my stuff and see where I'm at then. Or I'm going to sack all my stuff at the end step of my last opponent's turn. And then I'm going to go to my turn. Maybe I have a whole bunch of 1/1 flying token creatures or whatever. Then I'm going to attack everyone at that point. And then I'm going to sack everything again that I have, pretty much. Therefore draining everyone and therefore killing everyone. And that's just the idea of, what's going to happen to a degree. I think that, again, don't underrate combat damage. I think it's still a very viable strategy. And again, if you do underrate combat damage, then take all the board wipes out of your deck, right? Take all of the single target kill spells or removal spells out of your deck, and then see how you go. Then tell me combat damage isn't relevant. Suddenly you've got no board wipes and no target removal for all the creatures that you're going to be playing against. So now how relevant's combat damage? Oh yeah, very relevant suddenly. Oh yeah, I need to pack board wipes because somebody might just kill me with combat damage. Oh yeah, right. I forget that can happen. Or it might not just be one player again that kills me with combat damage, but he might attack me for 5, and the next player might attack me for 5, and then the next player might attack me for 10, or whatever. Or then they might attack me for 10, this person might attack me for 10, and then that person might attack me for 10, and then that person might attack me for 10. So, I've just lost 35-ish life, or 38-ish life, or whatever it is. I'm on 2 life suddenly. Oh, yeah, but combat damage is not relevant at all. I'm at 2 life. I know that's not 0, but again, if somebody can attack you at any point, or even lightning bolt you at any point, you're just dead. You go to do anything, and they're just like, okay, that's a cool story, bro, lightning bolt, or whatever, or I'll just shoot you with a rock for 2 damage, with, what's his name, from Commander Legends. Oh, cool, yeah, cool story, rock to your face. Again, that's not legitimately combat damage winning the game, but overall, how much of your life total or how much resources or whatnot were used in combat damage. So you're again, I just don't understand this whole concept. But I guess it is one of those things that sort of is pushed by a lot of voices out there in the community, but the content creator community. But I know a lot of players, and I've talked to a lot of players here and there on Discord and whatnot, especially during coronavirus. I was looking for a few EDH games and talking to people and whatnot, and playing a few webcam games, and I've seen a lot of webcam games. A lot of those games, when you're talking to people, So how does your deck win, or what are you doing, or what's your strategy, and da 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 da, and things like that. There's so many people who are like, oh, I'm running infect or whatever. Oh, okay, so you're combat damage deck, you know. And they're like, no, well, how else are you infecting people? You've got to deal combat damage to give people infect. So, you know, things like that. It's always one of the things that sort of boggles my mind a little bit. But again, as I say, when you start looking at, you know, why you're running certain cards in your deck, you're running it because you know, hey, life gain is good. I want to gain life because just in case somebody is playing a burn-ish deck or whatever, or, you know, a combat-based deck, I can gain some of the life that I've lost and stay in the game for longer. I won't be the first player knocked out, hopefully, and I can stay in the game long enough to close out the game in and get my win conditions going and whatnot. You pack board wipes and removal to get rid of people's problematic creatures and permanents, especially on a mass level, so that you can live longer in the game. You know, so that you can take over the game when you need to take over the game and win from there. You know, like, again, why is Cyclonic Rift so powerful? Because it's an instant. It gets rid of everything that's not yours. You're essentially able to deploy all of your threats, or if you've already got most of your threats deployed, just be able to win so much easier because you've gotten rid of everyone else's creatures, you've gotten rid of everyone else's permanents, and everything's in everybody's hands, and now they're down to a few mana on the board. So again, it just allows you to, you know, have those big turns, like being able to, even if you underload, I don't think that that's the right term, but underload Cyclonic Rift to bounce a, you know, a Blightsteel Colossus, then you knew that you couldn't survive combat damage. Into the Royal, it bounces a creature or it bounces a permanent. You know, again, how many times are you going to, in response to Craterhoof Behemoth or in response to something else like that, Enray's Forerunners or Overrun, are you going to bounce their biggest thing so that their overrun isn't as big as what it would have normally been, so that then you're not literally dead? So again, or just like if you have the mana to bounce their entire board when they're attacking you, or bounce key things that they have that are attacking you, like, you know, or get rid of them, settle the wreckage or whatnot, things like that, then you know, again, that it is part of the game and it is a relevant and legitimate strategy that you're building your deck to counter. If you didn't run these counters, then it's clear that you don't care about that portion of the game. And again, I think if you, you know, run your deck that way, you're gonna not do as well as what in, and especially in, again, those decks that do have those Nagilas and the Blade of Selves sort of things, and the not Dockside Distortion, the other Goblin. I said it before. The one that copies the Flash one, not Goblin. What's his name? I can't think. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. These sorts of things. So again, guys, just reconsider thinking about why combat damage is sometimes a relevant part of what your deck's doing. It isn't completely irrelevant, and there are strategies that can win with it. So don't just discount it. Make decisions for yourself. Don't just trust the old cliches that a lot of people have put out there that this is not relevant or you shouldn't worry about it. If you're at all in any meta and you don't prepare for something, I think that you're preparing to fail essentially. So yeah, you're preparing to fail at a certain part of the strategy or of some, you never know what somebody else is running. So especially having the instant speed removal is very good. But again, I think in more casual metas you can rely on the sorcery speed removal. But again, I don't think there's that much instant speed mass removal like a Settle the Wreckage there is. And like if you can find ways to give some of your spells flash that would normally be sorcery that are more global, like, Vidalcan Orrery and whatnot, things like that, Leyline of Anticipation, then of course that makes them a lot better because then you can answer things en masse at instant speed. So that's again why why Cyclonic Rift is so good, because it can answer everything at instant speed, or things like Evacuation is so good, or even Bluster Squall is so good because it just sort of deals with the problem at instant speed. But anyway, guys, that has been the video. Hope you have enjoyed and hope this has been an interesting discussion for you. I know I sort of repeated some of the things that I was trying to say over and over again a little bit, but again, it's trying to drive the point home a little bit and trying to explain it a little bit more and just sort of go through it a little bit as much as possible. But anyway, guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. You can help us out if you would be so kind. It would be great for me. Like, share, subscribe, comment. If you can, get on our Patreon and just donate. If you want to be on the bottom tier, you can be on the bottom tier. There's more perks and rewards the higher up you go. I was thinking about changing the value of some of the tiers just a little bit, because I don't think that they need to be as much as what they are, so I'm just going to change them after this week. So prepare for a whole new tier, well, not tier system, but buy system. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed again, and hope to see you in another video.